There we are. Well, hello there, everyone. Welcome to Heart of the Gala podcast. My name is Bobby D. I am your host today. My lovely co host, Erin Ward, is out there in the world traveling and fundraising, and she'll be with us here next time. We are in the middle of fundraising season and it's absolutely hot. We're seeing tons of great events, raising more money than they've ever seen. And we'll chat a little bit about that with our upcoming guest, who I'm super excited to have on our episode today. Now, this individual we met, oh my gosh, 6-7 years ago at a benefit auction summit. And there was some type of magnetism there that we connected on many different levels, and I consider him a brother from another mother. He's a best friend on another coast and a awesome auctioneer and fundraising consultant and cyclist and skier and so many cool things, and he's pretty awesome. So I will welcome to the Heart of the Gala podcast from Govelo Advancement, the one and the only Nelson J.
Hey, Bobby, thank you for that very kind introduction. Super fun. Yeah, I was thinking about when we met, and it was actually in New Orleans when you were the chair of the Benefit Auction Summit. And I think that was 2016 or 17. Might have been 2015.
Oh my
Shocking.
gosh.
Almost 10
so
years.
many years ago. Yeah, that has.
So many events ago.
So many events.
Yes.
We've been through a pandemic and all that fun things.
We have. Yeah, that event, that summit truly changed my career, changed my life, and I got really involved with future summits and met such an incredible and supportive and sharing community. And so, yeah, it's been such a fun ride ever since. So it's great to be here.
Yeah. Well, it's that supporting community I kind of want to chat about a little bit today. I always have, I always say with, our nonprofit clients, I'm like, look, there's no competition in this fundraising auctioneer consultant world. There's just collaboration. There's 1.5 million nonprofits out there in the world. And Nelson, how many professional full-time fundraisers do you think are out there in the market?
Not enough.
Not enough.
Not enough. I mean, it's interesting in the market that I'm in, which is Seattle, Pacific Northwest. This info's a little bit dated, but pre-pandemic, there were like nearly 600 nonprofit fundraising events a year, and there are not that many. There's nowhere. There's a short list of what I would consider to be sort of talented A-list fundraising pros in this market and in every market. So yeah. There's always need out there, and one of the challenges I think is for organizations or people that haven't worked with a professional before, just not knowing what they don't know. And there's so many ways that the professional fundraising consultant can come alongside and help shape and guide. And I think of it as a way to help people avoid pitfalls. And there's a lot of them. And even folks that have a ton of experience can see something at another event that they think was great and they want to do it at theirs. And then the realities of that in their unique setting, it may not be the right fit. So I think working with people like yourself and others that have done this long enough to have seen it all quite literally, then we can help folks avoid that. And that's the goal. So it should be, higher pro, less stress, more fun, and better outcomes. So
that's what it's all about. So I want to hear how you found your way into this wonderful world of fundraising. Because again, this isn't just the thing you wake up in the morning and you're like, oh, I'm going to go be a fundraiser or a fundraising host or MC or auctioneer or whatever. There's somewhere that you saw this and you got the idea. Let's talk a little bit about your journey to where you are today.
Well, great question. Thanks for asking. The thing that's interesting about this profession is that so in a previous life, I was a marketing director for a craft brewery in Seattle called Red Hook. And I was there for 12 years, and we supported the community in a big way through the in-kind contributions to fundraisers of beer specifically. Yep. And then when we expanded our brewery operations and built this big visitor center out in the suburbs of Seattle in Woodinville, we did a lot of donations in addition to beer, some donations were actually be a brewer for a day. So the person could come to the brewery and work with the brewing team, and they came home with their own special beer. It was really cool. And as part of that, as many people that are, if you've got nonprofits here who have great relationships with their sponsors and their donors, you get invitations to these events as the sponsor or as somebody that makes an in-kind donation of high value. So I started going to a lot of galas, and I didn't have any money at the time, not enough to support it, but we supported it through our beer contributions. But I became a connoisseur of auctioneers, and there were several in Seattle that were really fabulous. And there was a gentleman named Dick Friel, and he truly was one of the pioneers. Kip Toner was on that short list.
The Godfather.
And so some real legends that really started the fundraising auction experience as we know it, at least in this market. And Dick Friel had a job in the airline industry for a supplier, and he passed away in 2010. He was so loved by the community that they did a Cessna flyover at his memorial, which was at the Museum of Flight in Seattle. But he was so fantastic. And I saw Dick in action. I was like, whoa, I can't believe that you can bring, 600 people together, and a couple hours later, there's $2 million for this great organization. It blew my mind. And then I went to some other auctions, and they didn't have Dick Friel. And I thought, oh no, this is too bad. That other director, the other auctioneer that was directing that event was just so fabulous. So I didn't think much about it other than it's really important to have a great auctioneer. And then fast forward to when my sister was a teacher, she said, you used to do theater in high school. You're pretty funny. You could help us with our auction. So I did it. I had no idea what I was doing. I didn't charge them, and it was sort of stressful. And then
the first one always is.
Yeah. And then fast forward, we had kids. The auctioneer that used to do our kids' school auction got double booked or something. And my wife said, hey, they need an auctioneer. You could do it. So that's how I got my start. And then that was around 2007, I think, 2006 or 7. And I thought it was so fun. And we raised a ton of money. We raised like $267,000 for our Seattle public school, elementary school. And I thought, dang it, we could have done 300. And so I took vacation from my marketing job, and I went to the Missouri Auction School and came back, sent out letters, developed a small book of business, kept my day job for many years. And then in 2013, I had an opportunity to pull the corporate ripcord and do this full time. And that's what I've been doing ever since. And it's been fantastic. And so I met you shortly after that. And really my connection to the National Auctioneers Association and the support there totally changed the trajectory, and the continuing education and all the classes and the sharing that we do at those education events has just been fantastic. So yeah, that's how it all went down.
So then what attracted you to the Benefit Auction Summit, or how did you find out about that? Because that was like that's been a thing, before we met, I had already attended a couple, and I know that you were, kind of just showed up out of nowhere, and we're like, who's this guy?
Yeah. Well, it's funny. So when I went to that event, I specifically joined the NAA because I pitched a school on Queen Anne Hill in Seattle.
Okay.
And I have a pretty good sense after a pitch, like, is this a fit? Do we think we're going to get this gig? And so I felt pretty good about it. We stayed in touch, and then they just went quiet. And I was like, wow, so weird. They just totally ghosted me. And I was at Costco one day, and I bumped into one of the people on the committee, and I was like, hey, Bob, what's going on? How are you, man? Did you ever, whatever happened with your auctioneer? Did you find somebody, or, you kind of disappeared? And he said, "Oh gosh, Nelson, we really loved you. We really enjoyed our time together." And in my mind, I'm like, "What happened? Did I have like spinach in my teeth or what?" And he said, but we talked to another well-known auctioneer in the market, and that auctioneer said, "What happens if your independent auctioneer gets sick?" And I was like, "Wait, that's it? Like, I know other auctioneers. I would find an auctioneer for you." But the other auction company sold the notion of fear. Like an independent person is just one. If they get sick, then you're in trouble. And we have a whole stable of auctioneers. And this auction company does, and their stable is deep, but it's, there's a super short list of talented fundraising auctioneers. The rest of them are selling other things most of the time. So that was disappointing to hear that. And so I thought, gosh darn it, I'm going to get some backup. So I looked into joining the Auctioneers Association, and I sent in my annual fee. And first thing I did was went to that summit after I had joined. I mean, I saw, as a member, you start getting information, and I said, "Oh my gosh, well, that's what I want to do. I should go to that thing."
Yeah.
And
absolutely.
I remember meeting, you and so many people there, and certainly Tim Luke, from Florida. I mean, what a transformational experience going through his classes were for me. And I just felt like, okay, this is the community that I need to spend time with. And so
these are my people.
I think these are my people. And at the end of that session, I remember you inviting folks that, hey, if you want to get involved in being on the committee next year, leave me a card. And so I gave you a card, and then I think we did San Diego together, as a committee member. And I think I was on the committee as a supporter or co-chair or solo chair up until just the last couple of years. I mean, through Palm Springs in 2019, right before the pandemic. And then afterwards was still involved and still go to the event. I mean, it was fantastic last year in South Carolina. It was super fun. Never been to the Charleston area, and just the chance to connect with folks. It's just so great. Everybody's got fresh ideas, and there are things that happen regionally that we can share and bring to our local markets. It's also really nice as even though there are a lot of events here, sometimes it's nice to talk to somebody that's not in your market so that you can be totally honest and, kind of vulnerable.
Yep, that's it. Got to have that.
Without having fear of that coming back in some way. So that's been fantastic. And through that process, I've met, truly just an amazing collection of people, not the least of whom is Dan Black Ice Newman from Anchorage, Alaska.
All right.
And because Dan and his wife Jordana and their team, like he's got a fantastic team up there in Anchorage. Jen is one of them. We frequently are on the same flights because getting anywhere from, anywhere from Anchorage, you got to go through Seattle for the most part, like anywhere on the Midwest to the East Coast. So it's often that Dan and his team and I are getting on the same flight to go to a education event. And that was true when we went to South Carolina. In fact, we got a bonus day in Charleston when the hurricane hit, and our flight got canceled. And so we were hanging out in this, wicked storm in Charleston and stuff. But hey, we're hardy folks from the Northwest and Alaska. So that was super fun. And then more recently, if we can jump to this part, Dan reached out actually beginning of last month, like a month ago, with a potential client up in Alaska, in Anchorage, that was in a tough spot, and they had lost their auctioneer who they'd used for 15 years or something. Had a family issue and was unable to do it with 9 days before their event. And he reached out to me and he said, "Hey, Nelson, can you come to Anchorage on the 13th?" And I was like, "What month?" And he said, "This one." And I'm like, "What?" Damn, that's in 9 days.
A couple weeks. Yeah.
And so credit to Dan for being creative. And, the group Special Olympics Alaska, just an awesome organization. And we jumped on a couple Zoom calls and were able to connect with them before they went to print with their catalog. And they said, "Here's where we are." It was like the special share moment where you can just put it all out on the table. And there were some fundamental elements of their event that were not optimized for success. And so the great thing is they totally trusted us on like virtually no notice. And they said, okay.
Oh, wow. Well, no notice. And who's this person that we don't even know that doesn't even live here?
Correct. So yeah, all of that. And not only doesn't live here, had never been to Alaska. And I was like, yeah, it's just north of Vancouver, right? So what's interesting, and maybe we'll get into that later, it's a really long flight, even from Seattle. Like it's almost 4 hours. And I could be in like Austin, Texas in 4 hours. Mm-hmm. So it was a bit of a leap of faith, but so fun. And I'm so glad that I went. And I'm so Premier Auctions and Appraisals, and they've got a full, they do everything. They do traditional, they automobiles, collectible art. They have incredible inventory of, handmade things and artifacts from Alaska, and just, it's everything. And so they do, consignment and liquidations. They do it all, including fundraisers. So anyway, it was super fun. I basically represented Dan's incredible company up there, and we worked closely with the client in the days leading up to it. They modified the order. So what we did is just prescribed an optimized run of show for them, taking into account what they had committed to doing, but they were also really nimble. And the neat thing about that specific client is that they have their own space. Their venue is the training center for Special Olympians in Anchorage, and it's a beautiful facility. Oh, so very cool. It's not unlike a really fabulous gymnasium. So they dressed it up to look just awesome. And because of the Alaska market not having a professional sports franchises, they're frequently kind of adopt, not always, but many times they adopt a Seattle team. So in this case, the Seattle Seahawks have a great relationship with Special Olympics Alaska. So the Seattle Seahawks mascot Blitz was there. That was really cool. And some VIPs from the Seahawks organization. That was really nice. And also there was a really fabulous, everybody was great, but there was a gal there, Chelsea Burke, and she's Mrs. Alaska, and she is a parent of 4 boys, the youngest of whom is a Special Olympian. And Chelsea was the recorder and the runner, and she was the clerk. And I've never seen anybody actually do all of this. And when it was explained to me, I was like, okay, I'm new to town. Typically, when I first met Chelsea and her husband, they were at a table, and I thought, oh, this is not going to work, having a guest be the recorder. However, I didn't fully appreciate that as part of her platform as Mrs. Alaska, Chelsea, she stopped being a guest and got up and became an integral part of the success of the event. Wow. And she recorded everything standing near the stage on a clipboard, and then she walked up to the buyer, the successful bidder, and had them sign it, and then she took it to the data entry team, and then she came back and recorded the next one. And it's the first time that I've had one. Normally there's a table with 3 people sitting at it, and they're all doing their own work, and nobody talked to them. But she was so graceful and fabulous at that job. It was really fun, and it added some pageantry. It's always great to have, a sash at an event. So that was great. And so the event was super successful, and I just thought, wow, this is so crazy. Yesterday I was in Seattle, today I'm in Anchorage. And then because of the timing of flights out of Anchorage, and that I had an event to get to on Sunday evening in Seattle, I did the event and then pretty much drove back to, rendezvous with Dan. And Dan he had an event that night as well, as did Jen, his other fundraising auctioneer. And so, Alaska Auctions and Appraisal was rocking 3 events in Anchorage that night, and super great. And then I literally grabbed my luggage at his house and then hopped on the plane at 1:55 a.m. and flew back to Seattle with all the oil workers and commercial fishermen and stuff. that we're all
I
drinking
gotcha.
in the bar until 2 o'clock. Flat left.
That's
Pretty fun.
that's a real good use of the word red eye, because
Correct. Oh yeah.
they're already aware. So what ended up happening is it sounds like like Dan up in Alaska. I know Dan, his whole team, super awesome, great personality, great passion to help nonprofits. So there's this group that came up, and they're like, well, we want you, Dan. And he's like, sorry, I can't make it. I've got to, I want to bring somebody in. And it wouldn't have happened unless you had that connection with Dan. We're
For
on your
sure.
way to this summit. You were able to have a relationship with an individual to be able to fill in and serve on a night that you might have just had off, but instead we're able to go and kind of save the day a little bit.
That's right. And I think it's important to note that Special Olympics at that time, Special Olympics Alaska, was not officially Dan's client. He just wanted to help. He wanted to help a nonprofit that needed help. And he said, we can't help you, but let me make some calls. So when
let me help you any way I can.
Correct. And that's that's Dan. And that's also kind of part of the spirit of, we want to help collectively. I think our community of fundraising pros, particularly the ones that, that we know, Bobby, I think we want to help. And so, yeah. And the timing of it was kind of uncanny, because that's spring break for Seattle schools. And the way that Easter fell this year, it was a freakish April. I mean, the week kind of screwed everything up. After that. Yeah. The week after that, I had 3 events. I had an event.
Oh my gosh.
On Thursday and 2 on Saturday, and the same thing the next week. Not 3, but 2, 2 events, or actually there were 3, there was one on Sunday. So, it's kind of crazy. I got back from Alaska, and as fun as the trip was, and as great it was to help, I felt like I, had sort of whiplash. I was like, wow, it was weird. Was I really in Alaska last night doing a fundraiser when I was out at an event on Sunday night? And it's a little bit, it's a little surreal. And I feel like, with all due respect to our first responders and stuff, and sometimes I feel like it's like triage, it's the next client up and the next project up. And we have to kind of I have to kind of compartmentalize the way that I'm approaching it. And I've got some many year clients that are very proactive and want to get their list of auction items, to have me take a look at and put in optimized order. And, they send it to me on a Friday because it's like they want to get it off their desk before they go home for the weekend, and their events in like 3 weeks or a month. And I've got an event tomorrow and the next day, or 2 the next day. And I'm like, thank you. I'll get back to you next week with this. But I cannot look at it tonight, and I'm not going to look at it over the weekend, or my brain will start blending concepts, and that would be bad. So
that would be bad. I like to call it auctioneer amnesia, that we really only can focus and think about one event at a time. And I'm like you, like I can really, like I have an event tomorrow night. It's like, okay, all brain power is going to that, making sure it's going to be successful. I'm filling my brain with all of the nuggets and all of the statements and impact messaging, all of those things. But then as soon as that event's done, it's like, whew, that's gone. And then I have to prep for the next night. And then same thing, in, out, then the next night. And then there might be a couple of days of break, of respite, to kind of let the brain heal. And then it's all over again until, we're done with the season. So I really see this professional network, and you said it the best, is that it is this collaboration that's within it, especially for those that have that passion to help nonprofits however is possible. I mean, that's why we have this podcast. That's why I network so much. That's why I'm out there trying to push the profession of fundraising, auctioneering, and professionalism with all of that, always pushing forward, because that does trickle down to be able to help nonprofits however that we can. I know we were talking yesterday just a little bit about this, and the client that you're working for, Special Olympics Alaska, they, what did they say? They said something to you that really that struck with me, that really proves the point of why this collaboration, or why this network of fundraising auctioneers works. Because what did they say?
Well, they appreciated everything, and
were they happy?
They were happy. They were thrilled. And, they actually, which was so sweet, they extended a special, they sent me a little extra sugar as well as a
Oh, that's nice.
Yeah. I mean, it was not expected nor required, but it's always appreciated to get recognized for doing a good job. And they, it was a total, to their credit, it was a huge leap of faith. Like, their event hummed along nicely for a long time. And they had a long time relationship with somebody that had served them well for many years. It's always a good idea to get a fresh take on any challenge, no matter what business you're in. If you assume that you've got all the answers and that you're just on top of it, there may be some things that change and move. The cheese moves, as they say. And you want to be doing a reality check on, yourself. I had an event just this last weekend in the Seattle area, a longtime client, and there were some elements to the run of show that professionally I thought were suboptimal, and I'd communicated that in a clear and compassionate manner.
Let's have a conversation. Here we go. This is why.
Yeah. And at the same time, the feedback from somebody who was a leader at that organization said, I hear you, but we really want to do it this way.
Right.
And I was like, great, let's try it.
Okay. Yeah.
If it doesn't work, we can change it next year. And I think that's the important thing, is like, I would prefer to go into an event with like a pure heart and everybody rowing in the same direction, even if the direction might seem like a little bit circuitous. And it's building up trust and sharing data and, best practices and also I think it's helpful if a nonprofit, if somebody's in the development department or working on events, particularly fundraising events, I would highly recommend going either as a volunteer, or, I mean, if you can go as a guest, great, but you can also go and volunteer at somebody else's fundraiser and see what they're doing.
Right.
And there will be some things that you'll say, oh, that's fantastic. I want to do that. We need to do that. And there might be some things where you say, ooh, I don't want to do that. And those
you're going to learn something,
okay, but it's got to learn. It's just like going to one of those, those educational summits where we come away with some nuggets, and what works in one market doesn't work in the other. There's a fun activity here that it's the concept of the dessert auction is well known across the land, and it takes on different shapes, different forms. And, you'll hear from some auctioneers that they've got this, fabulous way to conduct the dessert auction. And it just depends on the group, the event, the time of the day. There's so many factors. But, at that event that I was sharing where we had, some slight differences on the way that maybe could go, we still conducted the dessert auction. And the dessert auction on a Sunday afternoon made over $9,000 for the organization.
Oh, wow.
And the event in total made over 140. And, it's a maritime museum. So, and that's a members only event, 300 people gathering at 4:00 on a Sunday afternoon. And they, the organization realizes 140,000 plus in support. Yeah. And it's a great, in addition to, we talk a lot in this business, like we certainly talk about dollars and cents and money, but those dollars are actually not really that important. It's really an expression of, or a reinforcement of the mission. And in their case, it's, to connect 5th through 7th graders in Tacoma with marine sciences. I mean, it's a chance for them to literally feel sea cucumbers in the touch tanks and starfish,
Cool.
and get out in kayaks and do waterfront cleanup, and to learn about the history of wheat exports from the Palouse, which is the biggest wheat growing region here in the Northwest. And that's this building that their museum is in is 124 years old, and tall ships used to pull up and dock and load up with wheat to take to points beyond. So much, so much that these organizations can share, and a chance to get directly in front of the community and to further that donor connection is just so crucial. And you can't do it. You can't do it through a computer or a phone. You got to do it in person.
Right. Yeah, it's that human to human connection. And you said it, I think the best that I've been, trying to preach is it's not always about the dollars. Like, yes, we are always striving to break records. We're always striving to raise as much money as we can, no matter what. But it's not only that. It's like you say, also that experience that's happening, sharing that mission, re-celebrating that mission, kind of reigniting those fires back in those donors. And it's keeping that focus on, this is the legacy, I guess, that we're leaving. And that $140,000 that you raise is vital to that organization's mission, to keep it rolling, to keep it going, to keep it, keep it afloat. Dare I use a pun? But
that's true.
But yeah, so it's working with a professional like yourself that is coming with these fresh ideas, with this energy, with this ability to like you say, optimize the event all the way through. But however, this would not have happened unless the Maritime Museum Tacoma was saying, we need to take a risk, or we need to take a chance on trying something different. And so many organizations come to this realization, like there's this moment that they finally decide, and I know that many of our listeners are have had that deciding point to where they're like, okay, that's it. We're hiring a professional. They're going from a zero to a hero, but there had to have been something that caused that, that need to happen, and then to make that choice. Otherwise, I mean, I always talk about the 6 words of death. This is the way we've always done it, and it's not until they make that change or make that choice to take action to try that something different. And here's just perfectly 2 cases of a group in Anchorage and a group in Tacoma. I mean, that's just 2 of the 1.5 that are out there that have to take that risk. So what's some advice that you could share with our listeners that are kind of on that teetering point? They're like, well, we haven't hired a professional yet. We don't have any budget.
Right.
This is going to be new, all of that. What kind of advice could we give to our friends out there?
Well, it's such a great question, and it's one that anybody that has been in this business on the delivery side as a fundraising consultant and auctioneer is familiar with. The notion that we can't yet afford to hire a professional because, for example, little school in the shadows of Mount Rainier. We'll call it Eatonville High School. And this is a true story. And they approached me years ago, and they said, hey, we think you could help us with our they do this really cool event called the Senior Surprise. The Senior Surprise is the night after graduation. The seniors get to go out on a motor coach, and they go to like a video game place. Nobody has video game places anymore, but they go to the arcade or whatever, and the roller skating and the pizza party, and they dance, and so they do all these activities to keep them safe, so that there aren't bad decisions made with alcohol and stuff. So to fund that activity, they do a fundraiser. Eatonville does this fundraiser in the fall, and they approached me and they said, well, we've got a fundraiser, and here's what we're raising the money for. And so, do you think you could help us? And I said, yeah, for sure, I can help you. Here's what I would charge, and here's how I would help you. And they said, oh, we don't know if we can afford that. And this is like, this is 8 years ago or something. And I said, well, why did you call me? Well, because our event was boring and blah, blah, blah. And it was long, and we didn't make very much money. And we're worried that if we spend, X amount on you, that we won't make any more money than we made this last year. And I said,
Right.
that's your primary concern about the cost? Yes. And I said, okay, look, if I can't raise more money than you raised last year significantly, to that more than covers the cost of hiring me over what you made last year, then you shouldn't pay me. Like, I can't.
Yeah. Right.
I appreciate that that's a concern from the accounting side of things, but I'm not good at my job if I cannot crush your goal from last year.
Right.
And I can't promise that I am going to crush it, but I can say if I don't crush it and I don't cover the cost of hiring me and then some, like, don't pay me. And they were, floored. And so we did the deal. And I think this is pretty accurate. I think before they hired me, their event made $17,000. And that was, but that's a lot. I mean, this is a small community in the foothills of Mount Rainier, and it's an awesome tight community. It's legit. Their school mascot is the lumberjack. It's called a cruiser. And, the timber industry is still a thing in Washington State. And it's a big part of the psyche of everybody there, and the wood and the nature. And so we did their event and raised $34,000. And
let me do the math here.
They were so excited. So we doubled it.
Yeah.
And this person who came up to me after the event, she said, "I am so mad at you." I was like, "What? Oh no. What happened?" What? She said, "They asked me. I did this event last year, and they asked me if they should hire a professional. And I said that we couldn't afford it. But tonight, you raised more money. It was way more fun, and it took half the time. That's why I'm mad at you." It was so awesome. So, guilty as charged. And that's kind of, that's the point. Like, I mean, it's not my money to spend, but my opinion, my feeling is that if you're on the cusp and you feel like, if you're a nonprofit and you feel like, gosh, I don't think we can afford to, I would just say that there is nothing more expensive than your free auctioneer. The person who is good with people or comfortable in front of a crowd, that's a unique skill set. But being able to ask people to support a cause and to be invested in a cause is also a skill set. And there are people that have both of those skill sets. And you should strive to find the one that can help you with both. At that event in Anchorage, for sure, I can remember at one point where we were in the raising paddle moment, and we were at the $1,000 level, and 8 paddles had gone up. And I said, "Friends, if we can get 2 more paddles up at this level, we'll make an even 10,000 at this $1,000 level." And we got 2 more paddles up. Nice. Simply by asking.
Just by asking.
And just by asking. And if I was comfortable in front of people but didn't understand the fundraising part of it, I would have missed that opportunity. I would have said, thanks to our 8 donors at $1,000. And that's where having an established and experienced professional can help you. And I mean, Bobby, you're an expert at the concept of, fishing for more without it making sound like a failure if you don't get it, meaning a big donation. And there's a subtle art to that. And it's so inspiring when you ask for that, and then with your longtime client that has never had a big whale show up, somebody in the back of the room puts their card up and says, "Yeah, we'd like to do $20,000. For an organization that I helped and have helped for more than 10 years, that has never happened until this last spring in February. And it happened. Oh, wow. And I was like, wow. So that's the stuff that gets us excited. And so, getting back, like, why should you take a risk on a pro? I would just say, why would you risk your event and this unique opportunity to anybody but a pro? Like, you should lean into it and trust that they're going to help you. And if it doesn't work, then you course correct next year. But to not invest in the pro, I think you're destined to be kind of just sort of milling around, perhaps about the same level that your event is right now. So
yeah, kind of accepting mediocrity. It's just kind of like, yeah, this is like just okay. But I'm seeing, you know, nonprofits all over this nation, all over the world, that are investing in the venue. You know, the venue, you know, isn't for free. They've
right.
got catering,
right.
which isn't for free.
Right.
I mean, it's not like a you know, bring your own dish, you know, kind of buffet, you know, a potluck. You know, they're going to have great food. They're going to have great drink. They're going to have great, you know, decorations. They're going to have lights and music, and the DJ is going to be there, and the photographer, and this giant list of professionals like that they are trusting to make sure all of these elements are as optimal as possible. But then there's the most important moment of the entire event where you said, we're just going to ask, we're going to fundraise, we're going to talk about this mission, but yet we're going to put someone up here on the stage that has limited to no experience in doing any of this, and they hold the success of your entire event literally in their hand with the microphone. And that's just beyond me, that this is still a conversation that I have to have with nonprofits on a daily basis, to where they're like, oh, we just can't risk it. And it blows my mind, you know, especially for those of you that are listening out there that are on that like a cusp and can't look past the dollars that you're investing to seeing the potential upside that's within that. Like, yes, you know, it is an investment. It's going to pull money out of your bank account to pay a professional. However, like, just like you did on many different instances here in our conversation, had showcased that whatever that minimal investment was, the ROI 3, 4, 5, 10 times above that, you know, in just fundraising, just the dollars of fundraising, but the experience equity that comes from that is completely immeasurable. So, like, I think that's everything.
Yeah, it's interesting what you said about venue, and I think it's I think I figured out a long time ago that in many cases people view event planners view, you know, catering, venue, host, you know, we're part of a line item on a list of things that has to get checked off. The thing that I think many folks don't remember is that the auctioneer, event, you know, host / consultant, depends on who you're working with, that is the one line item that can positively impact the top level revenue of the event. Everything else is an expense. Everything else is an expense. And so yes, there is an expense to hire a professional. And in some cases, it's a significant expense. However, that significant expense can return so much more than the well-intended amateur. In fact, I mean, we mentioned earlier, there's nothing more expensive than the free auctioneer. And I would say there's nothing more expensive than the discount auctioneer, or the person that's, we all have to get started somewhere, but do you really want to, you know, saddle your fundraising with, you're putting a cap on it when you're not striving to get the most capable and experienced person that you can.
Yeah, and there's no need to put that cap on there
too. Yeah, and it's there has to be a fit. Like, there are a lot of great auctioneers out there, and I am happy to be included in that mix, as you are as well, Bobby. And I am not the world's greatest auctioneer, but I'm really good with people and raising money. And
you are the world's greatest for your clients.
Correct.
You are, though.
But I don't have the hardware, Bobby, that you have. And I was so dazzled.
That's
when
10 years ago now.
I know, but your command of like legit auction chanting is world class, and it's documented. And you're an award-winning auctioneer, and all of that experience is part of what makes you who you are and helps you be just so fabulous. But your passion for it is equally as powerful as you know, your chops. And so I think finding the person that fits your organization is just super crucial. I'm a Northwest guy, born and raised, love the out of doors. I enjoy being in the out of doors, recreating, all of that. Organizations that have some of those attributes I tend to do really well. I also have found my way into this strange world of wooden boats, and I help wooden maritime facilities in 3 or 4 different cities in the Northwest.
Oh my gosh.
And they're all super cool. And I like to build things. So I love, I love being in a space where there's like authentic woodworking happening. That's a cool thing to me. I'm just like, wow, man, this is great. And I think it's reflected in the performance. I mean, I've been working with the School of Wooden Boat Builders, and that event is the same size in terms of population. But the first year that we worked together, we raised $50,000, which was their goal. And today that event is the same number of people, and it raises 150 plus. And
oh my gosh,
it's just through, really communicating that mission. We've got the event now taking place at the boat school, where we have partially built wooden boats in the venue where we're working. So it's so clear what the mission is. And that type of thing really is so fun to be a part of, to help grow these organizations and help them, deliver their mission and help folks that are out there looking for their, North Star in life, and you can help be part of it. It's super fulfilling, as you know.
I think you brought up the best metaphor that you spoke about right there, is talking about a master woodworker, a master boat builder. I mean, I know how to, cut wood with a saw and screw some screws, some things into the wall, whatever it is. But that doesn't make me a professional. Like, the amount of time and energy and focus and mistakes that you have to make to be able to craft, utilize the right tools, the right wood, the right techniques to make a wooden boat that actually floats and actually looks good, and something that's going to be around for a long, long time. It takes a skilled tradesman to be able to do that. And anybody off the street just can't just say, oh, I'm going to build a boat one day. I saw a video on YouTube, and then it's going to come out and be this just perfect specimen of a boat. No, it just doesn't happen. It takes many years, many mistakes, lots of sawdust, lots of, cuts and bruises and all of that kind of stuff, to where then they are going to create this beautiful piece of art. And I think using that metaphor and kind of laying it upon the professional fundraising auctioneer, host, consultant, that the reason the results of those events that we're able to help with are what they are is because of those bruises, those cuts, that sawdust, us, trying new techniques, us surrounding ourselves with individuals of the same mindset, the same passion, the same, wants in life to, help nonprofits make these great events. And that's our trade. We're craftsmen in this trade. And there are those that saw a YouTube video and they're like, oh, it can't be that hard to build a boat. It's on YouTube. They just use some chisels and some hammers and some saws and some levels and some squares
and
all of these.
Yeah,
and time lapse. And it only took them 35 seconds. Right. Oh yeah. Yeah. Meanwhile, there's 10,000 hours put into building the one vessel.
Correct.
So like, I think for our listeners and our viewers that are out there to use that as that metaphor, use that as that idea to when you are hiring that consummate professional, that tradesperson, that craftsperson that again holds the future of your event in their hands. That you want someone that's built the boat before, and you want someone that can come in and actually make the thing float and make it look good and make it feel good and make it last for a long time.
That's right. And here's another one for you on that thought, is that anybody, and I'm saying this with sort of air quotes, but anybody could do our job when it's going easy and going well. But when it goes sideways or something happens that's unexpected and you don't have a professional with you, that's when it really pays off. And so our job is to make sure that you don't ever get sideways, But the fact is, it's live theater with hundreds of people in the audience. And if you don't have a professional to help seamlessly navigate the choppy waters, you might have just
torpedoed
your event for the future. So,
and you could sink your whole.
you could sink or swim. There's so many ways to express it, but yeah, it's just so important. And I recently, my wife Tiffany and I, we had to get our house re-roofed after shockingly, nearly 30 years we've been here, and
you did it yourself because you watched a YouTube video.
Yeah. No. And I didn't even really seriously consider it because it's brutal work and we have a steep roof, but I was so impressed by the roofers. I was like, oh, this is just so hard. It's just, it's hard work. It's raining. And it's a complicated, I mean, the angles, there's like geometry, and I was so impressed. And, whether it's a roofer or a boat builder or the person working on a car, like, we need traditional skills and we need people that can fix stuff, because we can't keep just buying things and throwing it out. Like, that's not good for the planet. So we need to do the best that we can at whatever it is that we're doing. And I mean, I think you and I are so fortunate to be doing what we do, and Aaron as well. And just, it's just such a special community. And so, if you're a nonprofit out there looking for support, I mean, Bobby D's got you covered, and he knows everybody. So we can help if you need it.
Well, perfect. That's a great way to kind of wrap up this conversation. That's the whole point of this whole podcast, is to expose light upon, better strategies, better tools, better professionals to be able to work with, and then to be kind of the center point for the network that's out there. And anybody that's looking for anybody, please, reach out, and I'm going to help you find the fit for the right, the right auctioneer for the right organization. Now, if you're in the Pacific Northwest and you have anything to do with maritime or boats or any type of fundraising, I'm obviously going to refer you to Nelson J, because here we are. We share passions, we share philosophies, we also share the love for the great outdoors, and I'm not going to steer you wrong within any of that. And I think this ties up a really, really good point with especially your family. Now, you have a son who is a very accomplished jazz musician, correct?
Correct. He's currently in graduate school. So his, I do. His name's Toby J. Shout out Toby J. Toby played bass trombone in his high school jazz band, and they performed at essentially Ellington, which is in Rose Hall in New York City. They performed there twice. Harlem. They won it his senior year. That was 2019. Oh my God. And Toby's toured Europe, played at the Montreux Jazz Festival and North Sea Jazz Festival and in Paris. And and the beauty of this job is with the flexibility and specifically scheduling related, I was able to be, there as a witness to all of that awesome music.
Oh, how cool is that?
That's so great. And his bandmates, I mean, those kids are incredible, and they're at Juilliard and the Manhattan Conservancy and San Francisco Conservancy, and it's just, oh my God, it's so cool. And I help, I help the local jazz scene with fundraisers and theater groups and all sorts of stuff. So it's just fun to be a part of the mix.
That's all. And the reason I bring up the jazz metaphor is, like you said, sometimes we're on stage and things go sideways. I tell my clients all the time, I'm like, look, it's jazz, baby. Like, we're going to get thrown the notes, we're going to get thrown. And sometimes somebody's going to go down a different path, and we got to follow along, and we sometimes got to lead them, kind of lead them back. And there's no script. Sometimes there's no, music that you have to, or that you get to follow. It's just kind of that floating through it. And you have to have someone like Toby that put the time in, that knows how to use their instrument, that knows how to follow, that knows how to lead, that can make this just mix of notes and personalities really come together and feel good. And I think as fundraising consultants and MCs and auctioneers, like that's what we have to do. We have to help be we have to kind of be the band leader within all of it and be like, hey, it's okay. We're going to make this great song no matter what it is.
That's right. And that's what's so fun about this. I mean, each event is unique and different, and and the outcome, it's always exciting to see what happens. And the fact of the matter is, it always works. Even bumps, warts, and all, like it works. Like there's still great connections made with the community, and there's great fundraising that happens. So yeah, we're pretty darn fortunate to be doing what we're doing.
Absolutely. Well, one last question, and if Erin was here, she would ask you the question. Book. What book are you reading, or what book do you recommend to our friends that are listening?
Great question. I'm a big fan of, I think it's called Build the Life You Want. I gave it to my family for Christmas. It's Albert C. Brooks and Oprah. They collaborated on it. Albert C. Brooks teaches a class at Harvard, and it's really a great kind of mental reset on just a little bit different way to look at your life and what's important. And so I'm
putting it on the list for sure.
I think if you read that, you'll feel better for sure. No matter what, even if you feel highly positive about every aspect of your life, there's just some things that it's helped me relax about some things that I was, like, wow, what if, this or that doesn't work? And the point of it is that, we as sort of positive mindset folks, if we can realize that everything happens for a reason, and these are just opportunities to try something new when it's going away, that's when life is unfolding in a way that's unexpected, that's good for us. It's part of our growth, and we need to stay on that. And Bobby, when I come out to Long Island or Phoenix, depending on where you are, I'm going to track you down, because it was so fun seeing you and the boys last summer when you guys rolled through the Emerald City. That was super cool.
It was. Nelson was a great host, and we did this big, country, or this, West Coast travel road trip with the boys. And I let Nelson know we're coming to Seattle and we want to see the Space Needle. He's like, I got the perfect spot. You're going to have to walk 5 blocks uphill, but I got the perfect spot. And it was. It was great.
That was good for the boys. When you're in the car for a long time, you got to take a hike.
Oh yeah,
but
absolutely.
That was pretty funny. They were like, I don't know about this guy.
And then we got there and it was like, it was good. Good times.
Good. Yeah, that was great. Well, thanks for Nelson, having me on the podcast.
Yes. It's so good having you, and I'm looking forward to seeing you in person. I think we're getting together in August in Miami, aren't we?
Somewhere, Coral Gables, wherever that is.
Somewhere, who knows? Yeah. But it is. It's the gathering of the fundraisers.
That's right. I'm breaking my pledge to have, not spend a lot of money in Florida, but I guess we're gonna have to.
Yeah, we're gonna have to. It's gonna be a good time. But
shout out, Florida. Nelson, we like Florida. I saw Willie Nelson in Florida in 2004 in Orlando, and I need to make some new memories there. It's been a minute since I've been in Florida.
Right on. Well,
all right,
if I don't see you brother. Before then, you too, Knuckles, friends. Thank you to Nelson J for coming on and sharing some words of wisdom about it's okay to take a risk. It's okay to take a chance. You gotta be able to grow. So, friends, again, thank you so much for joining us, for listening, for watching. Please go and do the things, the thumbs up, the likes, the subscribes, the shares, all of that. And make sure you follow us on the social media. You can follow me, Bobby D Auctioneer, on Instagram and on TikTok. You can follow my lovely wife and partner at Gala Auctioneer. You can also follow us on TikTok, a couple of auctioneers. We've got lots of good stuff coming on there. But yes, please do. Let us know if you have any questions. Let us know if you have any comments or ideas of guests that you would like to see here. We're all about helping you to have better events. We're all about having, to help you raise more money and ultimately to make a bigger impact. I always like to say that we have the big giant pond of life in front of us, and we could either throw little pebbles in there and make little ripples, or we could throw giant boulders in there and make big old waves. How big of waves do you want to make? That's all it is. So, friends, again, my name is Bobby D with Heart of the Gala podcast. Thank you so much, and keep going out, impacting the world, and just being awesome to everybody. All right, we'll see you on the next episode. Thanks again for watching.